Today we're talking about the cult of Dionysus and the god of sex, madness, and shadow. And why are we talking about this? Because it's almost shadow season. So for us, shadow season begins on Halloween and ends on New Year's. And this is when we take the time to really celebrate and explore the shadow, among various other things, which I won't get into too much detail right this second. But because it's almost shadow season, we are going to explore the god of shadow, the god of sex, the god of madness, Dionysus. And the reason why that we are going to be taking a look at that, in addition to this, and what we can really learn from this, is what we're going to see is this world is extremely repressed, very shadow repressed. So we want to change this world and transform it from a world of repression to a world of celebration. And that's what it's all about. We live in this really restrictive world. It's all about what you can and can't do, that constantly represses you and your aspirations and your individuality and your strengths, and even us as a collective coming together. It's just a world filled with repression. One aspect of this is shadow, sex, and exploring one's inner darkness. And so this is going to wreak havoc upon the world. As Erich Neumann pointed out in his book, I believe it's called A New Ethic, is that the world also has a collective shadow. And as long as the world doesn't address its collective shadow, it's going to be continuously divided. So that we should seek for wholeness. We should seek for unity to be able to build a better self and a better world. So this is going to be a really good stream. I'm excited to talk about it with you guys, especially because shadow season is almost here. We're going to jump right into it and start exploring this important topic. Now, Dionysus is the god of basically experience in general. Now, he also does represent what we talk about in Hyperionism as the shadow self. But Dionysus isn't just about shadow. It entails shadow, very much so, but it's also just about experience and indulgence and taking part in enjoying the what it means to feel alive, to experience like the pulse of nature, the pulse of the holos. And we live in a world that is incredibly repressed. And we're going to talk a little bit about how this has to do with the shadow. Because remember, Dionysus is experience in general, but it also has to do with the shadow. And we're going to be talking about the shadow a lot. So let me give a quick rundown and definition of what the shadow self is. I know most of you who watch my videos are very familiar with this, but in case you're new, I'm going to give you a very brief, quick synopsis. It's something that is kind of complicated, but I'm going to do something very brief, very quick. So your shadow self is the part of you that you have repressed into your unconscious. It's the parts of you that you have cut off because society or your parents or your friends or some kind of external influence has said that they are unacceptable. So your shadow self can contain all different kinds of qualities. And so a good example of this is, let's say you're growing up as a child, and let's say you're just naturally, you have a lot of anger, so you throw tantrums all the time. Well, you can end up, repressing that angry side of you into your shadow self and denying that you're an angry person at all because, society has said it's unacceptable. However, the shadow can also contain very, very positive qualities as well. For example, let's say you're extremely creative and you experiment with, very interesting makeup looks, but then, people make fun of you and say, oh, that's stupid, that's ridiculous. Or maybe you're a boy and you do it and they go, oh, well, boys don't wear makeup, that's wrong. So you take that part of yourself and shove it away into your shadow self and deny that it exists. Now, this is incredibly damaging to you because you are fracturing yourself. You aren't accepting the different parts of you and integrating them. And this is very damaging to you and the world as a whole. Because when you don't accept your shadow self, many different things that are negative can happen, such as shadow projection. What shadow projection is when you hate something in someone else because it reminds you of your shadow. So for example, let's say that, you're a boy and you want to wear makeup, but some, world tells you, oh, that's wrong. So you repress that part of yourself. Now, if you shadow project, what that means is that you will then go out and hate on those boys or men who wear makeup. You'll go, oh, that's, look at you, that's wrong. Do you see how this shadow projection occurs? Because you feel better when you eliminate something in others that reminds you unconsciously of what resides in your shadow. So shadow projection, that's just one example. It causes so many problems in this world, from homophobia to sexism to genderism to so many different things, okay? So basically what it is, your shadow self is this reservoir in your unconscious mind that contains all the parts of you that society deemed as wrong, and you cut them off and hid them away and repressed them into your unconscious. This is negative in many different ways. Now, it can contain both positive and negative qualities. It can contain things like, having a temper. It can contain things like that one might attribute to being negative. But it can also contain positive qualities like individuality, creativity. One has to be able to integrate the shadow, because if you don't integrate the shadow, you either shadow project, and this causes hatred and division in the world. And another thing that can happen is outbursts. Someone who denies that they're an angry person and represses that, it can build up, and they might, an angry outburst might occur. They might get violent. The shadow can also cause addiction and many different neuroses, because it's yearning to get out. It's yearning to escape. You can imagine like this pressure cooker. You're trying to keep it down, but it's going to get out sometime. So the answer to the shadow is integration. And integration is a fancy word for just saying to deal with it. You want to recognize that it's in you and then find a healthy way to deal with it. Find a way to accept that you have this anger and find a way to deal with it, to work with it, to figure out a way where you're not just denying that it exists at all. Or, your creativity, not denying that you have it, but exploring it, exploring makeup looks, exploring whatever creativity you might have. So I know I said that very quickly, and there's so much more to it, okay? But if you want to know more, just go to my channel. There's a playlist called Inner Star Actualization. In that playlist, there's a video about the shadow self. Check it out. It tells you all about it. So, one of the important things to know about the shadow self also is it also contains usually sexuality in many different forms. It could be sexual desires, it could be exploring, taboos, etc. And this world has become incredibly sexually repressed. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because Dionysus is the god of, madness, sex, shadow, experience, music, wine, art. And it's a really good example to show you how repressed this world is. And sex is a really good example of that. For example, sexuality is extremely repressed. I don't even know, for example, I posted a story that we were going to be talking about this, and it had the word sex in there, and I'm pretty sure that, the algorithms didn't show it to people because it's like, oh, that's a word that we need to censor. I mean, even me saying it so much right now during this video, I don't know if this video is going to get, flagged or something. So you can see, just case in point, that it's extremely censored. But it's ridiculous because even though this world censors sexuality so much, it's also obsessed with it. Sex is both everywhere and nowhere. Sex is everywhere in that, it's on TV, it's in, they use it in advertisements to sell things. If you just go on TikTok, right? There's tons and tons of sexual things, but it can't be overtly, it has to be hidden. If you're actually saying that you're doing something along those lines, it's going to get flagged. You're going to get booted. And so this world shame, and it's also taboo to really talk about. So this world shames sexuality, and it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And another case in point is that this world uses sex to sell things. They'll use sexual images, let's say, next to a car to get people to want to buy that car. So, but then what does it do? It shames those who are S workers. I can't even say this because of censorship, right? It shames those who are S workers, which is ridiculous. So you can use it to have advertisement to sell things, but as soon as someone wants to use it explicitly, like purposefully for their, for a woman's empowerment and or even just to it doesn't necessarily have to do with empowerment. Sometimes it does, very often it does, but just for the fact that you're using it for you rather than to sell someone else's product, but suddenly it's not okay anymore. So I hope you can see this is a very difficult thing for me to talk about because I'm on a streaming platform and I have to choose my words very carefully. So that's why it's kind of hard for me to dance around certain words that I can say and can't say. But I think you get the idea of what I'm saying, is that sex is both everywhere and nowhere. This world is incredibly repressed sexually, even though it's everywhere. But it's taboo, you can't talk about it, you can't post about it, but it's everywhere. So do you see how humanity is a walking contradiction? Humanity is extremely contradictory. It's extremely divided. It is not whole. And so by incorporating the shadow self, what you want to do is make yourself whole. And we're going to get to the Dionysian cult and what this has to do with everything. You'll see what it has to do with Dionysus and the cult of Dionysus. But the thing is that even though we all have individual shadows, the world itself has a collective shadow. And the world's collective shadow is made up of all of our own individual shadows. And the author Erich Neumann has a great book called The New Ethic. Now, I don't agree with everything in The New Ethic, but there are some very powerful points in it, in that the world, to be able to progress, needs to integrate its collective shadow, or else it's always going to be divided and will never achieve wholeness. So in that work, they want to basically reject the idea of morality and replace it with the idea of wholeness. And that is kind of along the lines of what Hyperianism says. We don't have moral absolutism. We are instead understanding that reality is about the freedom of the individual and the collective to actualize and grow. And part of that is about accepting one's dark side and being able to integrate it, and then doing that in a worldwide scale as well. Now, I don't agree with everything Erich Neumann says. He does not have an ontology, which means he has a very skewed idea of what wholeness really means. And also keep in mind, that doesn't mean that Hyperions are going to go out and, start murdering or something just because we reject moral absolutism. That's not the case, right? Our system of what you might call a new morality is not based on moral absolutism, but it does exist in the form that we want everyone individually and collectively to grow, learn, optimize. And, if you go out and kill someone, you're impeding the growth of an individual and the collective. So that's that in a nutshell. And I know I'm throwing a lot of different concepts all at once, but this is a concept that entails a lot of different factors, and I want to be able to get to the meat of it, where we're going to talk about the Dionysus and the Dionysian cult, and have time to really hit in all the important parts here. So let's start unpacking this and see how it fits together by starting off by just saying what the hell is the Dionysian cult. So I'm going to read a quote from Britannica talking about this. So here's a quote from Britannica. In every Greek city, the god Dionysus was worshipped by fraternities and sororities, and also by mixed communities. Dionysus was a god of fruitfulness and vegetation, but especially of wine. The Dionysiac festivals provided an opportunity for stepping outside of the daily routine. The festivals included not only drinking wine and engaging in sexual activity, like orgies, but also participating in such significant features of ceremonies. As almost every Greek did join in, initiation into the Dionysiac cult might be compared to tribal initiations. It seems that initiation into the Dionysian Mysteries was accomplished by initiation into sexual life. So there's a lot of different aspects going on with Dionysus. Dionysus has to do with wine. Dionysus has to do with intoxication. It's also included with sexuality. So what is Dionysus all about? Dionysus is about being able to let loose. It's about being unrestrained from societal constraints in the daily life and how you're supposed to act and what's taboo, what's polite, having to go to work, having to put on a mask, having to put on a persona. Dionysus is about stepping away from that and just being able to let loose. Wine, sex, intoxicants, Music. Dionysus also incorporates music. So in Dionysus, it's just about, is the ultimate form of experience. But he's also the god of madness, because when you're just indulged, you reach that sort of ecstatic level, because the Dionysian rituals would be about combining all these elements together into one, transcendent experience where you're just indulging in everything all together. There's music playing, people are drinking, people are, smoking, people are, I'm saying smoking because I can't, I have to dance on words when I do these videos, but you know what I mean? People are indulging in all sort of intoxicants. They are having sex. There's even they would even incorporate like violence sort of things. And just every sort of experience that you can possibly imagine, culminating into one divine transcendent experience. Now, keep in mind, I'm not advocating violence, okay? Keep that in mind. Don't do anything illegal, don't do anything dangerous. But right now, I'm explaining the Dionysian rites, the Dionysian rituals, and to give you a real idea of what Dionysus is all about. Dionysus is about unrestrained, unfettered experience and indulgence, feeling alive. So, I'm going to read now some excerpts from my book, The Path of Shadow, to really get a better idea of this as well. So in ancient Greece, there existed a secret initiatory cult. Also, by the way, if you're watching the replay, you should really come to the live streams when they're live, because we're doing a giveaway for my book, The Path of Shadow, at the end. And you missed it. You missed things like this. But anyway, in ancient Greece, there existed a secret initiatory cult known as the Dionysian Mysteries. They practiced secret rites involving wine, intoxicants, trance-inducing music, dance, and sex. It combined all manner of intense exploration and sensual stimulation into a wildly transcendent experience. The Dionysians were all about liberation and the experience of life. At the time, Greek society was strict and patriarchal. Many Greek rulers hated the cult and viewed it as a threat to the establishment. You can imagine that, right? If you are a Greek ruler and you have this cult that comes in that's all about throwing rules aside and just indulging and experiencing, you can imagine you might not like that very much if you're the ruler and trying to keep order. Because Dionysus is all about disorder. Dionysus is all about chaos. So the Dionysian Mysteries sat directly opposed to the institution that I had described as this like patriarchal institution. And so the Dionysian Mysteries was made up predominantly of women, though men were allowed to join as well. Their rites broke the shackles of society and celebrated the individual. It brought freedom to those who were treated unfairly by the state, such as women, slaves, and foreigners. The Dionysians represented release from political authority, morality, and what could be considered typical negative male dominating qualities. In direct contrast to these qualities, they advocated liberation, indulgence, the body, nature, sexuality, and what could be described as expressive feminine qualities. Though this masculine-feminine distinction is arbitrary. Keep that in mind. You guys know this. You guys know me. This female-masculine distinction of certain qualities is completely arbitrary, completely societally defined. But, you know, I'm using words. We have to use language at some point. Language is imprecise, but we must. So they worship the god Dionysus, who is described as effeminate and androgynous. So Dionysus was androgynous. In a Greek play, he is portrayed as having long hair and pale skin due to his rituals taking place mainly at night under the moonlight. He is the god of wine, music, liberation, art, and madness. Their rituals were wild and sensual. Music played and the drums beat hypnotically. The wine flowed as they danced to the rhythmic tones. They broke into ecstatic sex as they took their fill of love and life. Their goal was to celebrate all the invigorating aspects of life. Those aspects that liberate you from the confines of society, and those aspects that make you feel truly alive. When the Dionysians reached their most intense state, they were said to have awakened the god within. They became the god. They self-identified with the god Dionysus. When they were in that revelatory state of having all these different experiences, they identified with Dionysus. They became Dionysus. Because that is what Dionysus means. Do you see? When you're entering this, because Dionysus is a concept. So it's an archetype. So by doing all this, you are becoming the god. Because you now represent all the things that the god represents. You have identified as the god. You have become the god, as you are the vehicle for that god. You are that god, not just the vehicle, but you are it. So I think you're getting a pretty good grasp of the Dionysian Mysteries so far, but I want to take a break for a minute to interject. Do you see how it involves the shadow, but it is also more than the shadow, because it's also experience and liberation in general. So in the Dionysian Mysteries, yes, you will be able to explore your shadow, but it's also more than just the shadow. It's just the beauty of experience in general, and that it can incorporate exploring the shadow. So important to remember this, that Dionysus is the god of shadow, but also more than that. Experience in general. So from a psychological perspective, Dionysus represents shadow. And more than that, but that shadow is one aspect. He is unrestrained self-indulgence, liberation, and ecstasy that dwells deep within you, unconsciously waiting to be free. But he is constantly suppressed by societal restraints. You can't just indulge all the time. You can't show up to work drunk. And that's a good thing. We need order. So it's important to remember. Here's something I want to remember. So in opposition to Dionysus is Apollo. So Dionysus and Apollo are opposites. Dionysus is all about experience. Apollo is all about reason and knowledge and understanding. So you can think of Dionysus as shadow and Apollo as light. We aren't one or the other, we are both. Remember, we are the absolute, so we entail all aspects within us. We are abraxas, we are the absolute. Hyperianism is the ultimate synthesis. We have the power of Dionysus and Apollo. We have the power of God and the devil. We have the power of, Lucifer and Satan. We have the power of Yaldabaoth and Sophia. Or the one, or whatever you want to call. So you see, these are all just different symbolic and mythological terms for different aspects of who we are. So we talk a lot about Gnosticism on that channel, but remember, Hyperianism is not Gnosticism. So the Sethian Gnostics, they would have hated Dionysus because they hate the material world. They would have associated Dionysus with Yaldabaoth, the evil creator god, because he's the creator of the material world. But do you see how we as Hyperians are above all these limiting concepts and are synthesized through them? We accept both Dionysus and Apollo. And so that means we don't view the material world as evil. We view it as a place to be able to experience. And we don't necessarily view Yaldabaoth as evil, but that we want to harness the power of Yaldabaoth for good, for positive experiences. Yaldabaoth has the power of dream shaping. We don't want to eliminate dreams. We want to be able to build fantastic dreams. The problem is that the power has been used to build a nightmare. That's the problem. Our world right now is in the dream. It's a nightmare. But we don't want to escape. We want to transform. That's very important to remember in Hyperianism. We're not trying to escape. We're trying to transform. We are gods. We are divine. Gods are not escapists. Gods do not run away. Gods transform. So we aren't here to run away from this world. We are here to transform this world. Very important to remember. That's what we are in Hyperianism. We are gods. We transform. We do not run away. We do not escape. We actualize. We transform. And by the way, if you are new to Hyperianism, when we talk about Dionysus and Yaldabaoth and all these different things, These are just archetypes. We don't believe that these beings actually exist. All right. If you watch my videos, you know that. But if you're new, I want you to remember we use these different symbols, archetypes, motifs, and stories to understand things through symbolic methods. So, continuing here, Dionysus bursts forth from your unconscious into your consciousness, and you awaken the god within. So think about a moment in your life when you gave in to that moment and really felt alive. Now think about a time in your life when you just gave in and you're like, fuck it, I'm going to have some fun. Did you not feel this like otherworldly power awaken within? Did you not feel the rhythm of life flowing through your veins? When you stop thinking about all the worries in life, you stopped analyzing things, you stopped, having anxiety, you just were in the moment in pure ecstatic experience and indulgence. That's Dionysus. The Dionysian Mysteries gave birth to theater, concerts, and performance art. So when you go to a concert and see a band play, get drunk, dance, get high, you have the ancient Dionysian Mysteries to thank for their existence. The Dionysian Mysteries birthed all these things: art, theater, music. And think about it. When you go to see a band play and music is playing, people are moshing, there's dancing, people are drinking, they're making out and doing other things. This is all has its roots in the Dionysian Mysteries. They all stem from that. So, unfortunately, these activities have lost almost all of their transcendent qualities, meaning, and connection to the otherworldly. Well, it's time to bring back the Dionysian Mysteries. Fuck prayer and mainstream religion. The mysteries offered so much more. Let there be love and let there be life. So to reiterate, Dionysus is one aspect of Hyperianism. We don't want a world of just chaos, experience, and indulgence. No, we want a world of logic and reason, but we don't reject Dionysus. We, in terms of, God mythos, we pay Dionysus his dues. We make time for the worship of Dionysus. We're not actually worshiping Dionysus. Dionysus is us. But what that means is we're giving room for Dionysus to express itself in our life. And this world is incredibly repressed because it does not make room for this. And especially it does not address its shadow. So remember, shadow and Dionysus are not synonymous. Dionysus is just experience, indulgence, expression, all these different aspects of life. And shadow can find its release through Dionysian aspects. And another thing important to realize is, why does Dionysus represent madness? Well, madness is think about it like this: being lost in this story of life is a kind of madness. Because what we truly are divine, transcendent, immaterial beings of mind. But we throw ourselves into a story. So it's a kind of madness, but it's a beautiful madness. It's a beautiful madness. Like, what's a beautiful madness? A beautiful madness is like reading a book too. When you read a book and you get lost in the story and you're so engrossed in the story, that's kind of like a form of madness in a way. Now, of course, you never lose connection from reality. You don't get so lost that you literally go insane. But do you see what I'm kind of getting at here? It's the weaver of stories, the weaver of dreams. And this beautiful experience is what allows us a release from sort of the more strict and ordered parts of life, which are really necessary. And remember, Hyperianism is all about logic and reason, because ultimately that is what will allow us to build a world where we can incorporate Dionysian experience. So logic and reason allows for the expression of shadow, because logic and reason is conscious of itself and realizes, hey, rationally, we need a moment to chill the fuck out. We need a moment to indulge, experience, enjoy life. You want to be able to enjoy life. You want to be able to do this. You want to have the opportunity to enjoy life. Because yes, we are all working towards the omega point. But you want to enjoy life as well. Because remember, we are the one that has particularized itself to experience itself in multiplicity. So yes, we want to work towards rational unity, absolutely. But we want to take a minute to enjoy life. And the great example that I give of this is sort of like reading a book. If you're reading a book, you don't just jump to the end right away. Is that satisfying? No, not at all. And it's like playing a video game. If you start up a video game and then instantly it goes to the end cutscene, oh, congratulations, you won the game. Is that satisfying? No. It's playing the game. It's enjoying the game. It's the experience that makes it all fun and rewarding and worth it at the end. So yes, in Hyperianism, we are all about logic and reason and working towards rational unity and the actualization of the world and the universe. But we're going to have some fucking fun while we do it. That's what it's about. You see, we're not like certain things that are just like, oh, we're going to deny experience, or we're going to try and escape reality. No. We're gods. We're going to transform the fuck out of this world. We're going to have a good fucking time doing it. And we're going to do it while working towards a powerful goal. We're beyond good and evil. We're beyond light and dark. We are synthesized. That's why we are synth minds. We're not positive minds. We're not negative minds. We're not neutral minds. We are synth minds. That is what we are in Hyperianism. And it incorporates all these different aspects within. So, but that brings us to the problem of this world. Now, the problem of this world is that it doesn't allow room for shadow expression. So what is the answer to this? Well, the answer to, there's a lot. This world needs an overhaul in general. But what we want to do is create shadow zones and Dionysian fields. So across the world, we want to create shadow zones and Dionysian fields, where in shadow zones you can have the opportunity to experience your shadow. You know, that we can create these intricate experiences, and then Dionysian fields as well. But let me go back to the path of shadow here. Because in today's world, there aren't many avenues for exploring sexuality or shadow in general in the outer world on this planet, other than, dull nightclubs and awkward one-night stands. Right? Most of these places have no motivation other to make money and use women as objects to attract sexually repressed men. It's a disgrace. Right? This world, again, I talked about earlier, how sex is a huge problem. It's everywhere and nowhere. It's used as a commodity, but as soon as individuals, I think I used women as an example, but just because typically the world uses women, but it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or non-binary or whatever. If you're using your sexuality for your own liberation or your own empowerment, or you're an S worker, suddenly, oh no, that's not good. That's not okay. But if you're doing it to sell a hamburger or a car, oh, that's fine. You see, this world is a walking contradiction. It's real effed up. So what we need to do is create shadow zones and Dionysian fields across the earth. Now, of course, it's not going to be everywhere. We have to be able to advance in mathematics and technology to study and grow through learning. But how can you be expected to focus on such things when there is a beast within you clawing to be free? You have to make room for the beast. Not deny the beast, not say, oh, the beast is evil and and fear the beast. No, you want to let the beast express itself and gain the power of the beast. We aren't light workers. We aren't all love and light. We are both shadow and light. As much as we're light workers, we're shadow workers. We are synthesized. So there is a time and place for everything, and release must be offered. Designated shadow zones will be created, entire realms of experience. Imagine lands of music, dance, art, and freedom. You'll be able to live freely and experience the wonders that this physical life offers. There will be extreme varieties. Different experiences will be offered according to whatever your desire. We can create Dionysian fields where perhaps you wish to enter a flowery grove or lay by green glades and waterfalls, to be with a group who share your mindset and intentions, who recognize the transcendent and wish to form close and intimate connections and express through nature, music, and ecstasy. Or perhaps you want to enter a dark world of BDSM and explore a shadow zone in this world where heavy music is playing and bass shakes the floor, dominance, submission, giving to your animalistic desires, your instinctual desires, the Freudian id. Or perhaps in another world you meet a seductive stranger who takes you on an intimate psychedelic journey of meaning, one who shows you realms that you never have imagined, even your most vivid dreams. The point is that we can create wildly varied experiences limited only by the imagination. Always remember that this world can be whatever the people will it to be. It's only the way it is now because those who live here have collectively chosen to have this mundane, banal, and boring experience because they've been controlled by the will of the rulers of this world, the elite. But it can change. This reality can be whatever you fashion it into. This meaningless prison planet can be transformed into a shining beacon of freedom and a celebration of life. We will create worlds of experience, completely immersive adventures that will be life-altering and deeply satisfying. Different shadow zones and Dionysian fields will have different experiences so that there is something satisfying for everyone. It will be filled with creativity, art, and freedom. Everyone will be free to experience it however they so will, be it light or dark. It's time to really live. And sex and love should be celebrated and recognized for what they are, a powerful and transformative experience of the divine within each other. Do you want a meaningful experience? Do you want to feel the God within? Then to hell with prayer, make love. So there's a lot more that I could read here, but I want to have time to talk more about this. And that was from my book, The Path of Shadow. But the ultimate thing to realize here is this world is in a shit state for so many different reasons. But one of the big reasons is that this world represses you. It doesn't allow you to explore your shadow, and it doesn't allow you to truly experience life, to truly live. There are so many restraints, there are so many taboos. And again, we don't want to live in a world of just chaos and partying all the time. We want to have both. We want to have the ability to progress in mathematics, learning, reason, understanding, and knowledge, and technology, and all these different things that are incredibly important. But we also want to be able to live life. And right now, the world doesn't let you live life. If you think this bullshit is living life, if you think going home after being worked like a dog through a 9-to-5 job and then switching on Netflix is living life, no, that's not living. Going to a bar on the weekend, turning on Netflix, that's a sorry excuse for experiencing this world of limitless possibilities, and we can begin to build them here right now. And imagine when we are extremely evolved and begin to form our own collective, we'll be able to create our own worlds of experiences, and that I will be able to experience a dream world that you have created, and you will be able to experience a dream world that I have created. And imagine being able to visit entire worlds of experiences. Now, of course, this is now talking, when we are much more advanced as a collective, we'll be able to do these things. But it will happen. It'll be happen. Instead of watching a movie, you'll be able to step into a universe of experience. And, even VR is starting to approach, it's still very, very far from that. But you see how we're starting to head in that direction already. There's a glimmer of it there. But it's all been taken over by capitalism and products and keeping you enslaved. Because the goal of capitalism, what's the goal of capitalism? It's to work you as hard as possible for as little pay as possible, such that you only have enough energy so that you don't die and can reproduce. That's it. They want to work you as hard as possible for as little money as possible, such that you only have enough energy so that you don't die and can have sex. Because when you have sex, you reproduce, and this gives them more workers and more consumers. Doesn't give a fuck about you otherwise. This world is completely screwed up for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is that it doesn't let you experience life. It doesn't let you experience and accept your shadow. So this is why we incorporate Dionysus into Hyperionism as an extremely important aspect of Hyperionism. Of course, it's just one aspect, it's one part, but it's an incredibly important part. And it's a critical part that we will have in mind when we build New Terra and shape a new world to create these realms of experience, these realms of indulgence in any way that you so please. Within reason, of course. Obviously, you're not going to go out murdering people or stuff like that, but you get what I'm saying. You understand what I mean, the spirit and the essence of what it is that I'm declaring. Now, we could talk about what Dionysian fields and shadow zones would actually incorporate, but that's, a topic for another time. But I think you get the general idea of it, is that one of the reasons why that this world is so fucked up is because everyone wants to experience, and it doesn't allow people to experience life. It bottles it up. It restricts it to shadow. And so what do we have? We have a world of projection, which leads to hatred, sexism, homophobia, genderism, all this sort of thing. Leads to projection, leads to addiction, leads to outbursts, it leads to shadow possession, and it leads to a divided, fractured world, because individuals are divided and fractured. And this world cannot be whole until the individual becomes whole. And that involves integrating and accepting the shadow. And that involves accepting and celebrating Dionysus as the god within. The god of sex, the god of shadow, the god of madness, the god of art, the god of music, the god of indulgence, the god of experience, the god of life, the experience of life. So let's create a world worth living. What the hell with this shithole? This place is a nightmare. We can make it a dream. Let's do it. I want to give a huge shout out to all those who support on Patreon, especially Timothy, Renaissance Fairy, Jordy. Thank you guys all so much. Patreon is the best way to support my work because of all the deplatforming on YouTube and Facebook. And when you do, you get access to our weekly secret live streams, our hidden Discord server, The Citadel, and my hidden lecture notes, and a lot more. Thank you guys so much. That is how I am able to do what it is that I do.